Hello, everyone. This is Independent Conservative. Thank you all for joining me once again. In this video, I want to talk just a few minutes about the fear and terror that the mainstream media is pushing and promoting towards the economic stability of President Donald Trump's economic plans for this country. And what I want to talk about here for just a few brief moments from this article that I'm about to read to you guys is the fact that the job productivity and job hiring has actually risen in like since January, and it has not been this disastrous projection that the mainstream liberal media has been trying to push, having everyone terrified to the point where they're jumping in, halfway ready to jump in the lake, or so to speak. Now, if you're watching this video, I want you to listen very careful to this article that I'm about to read. I know that I can't visibly show it, and my apologies. Pray for me that I'll be able to find the software and be able to get the software that I need to be able to actually show the article. But trust and believe, I'm not making this article up. I'm reading it. It is the news. It's just in written form. So let's get right into this, because I think this should add some encouragement to many people who are concerned about President Donald Trump's economic policies. I mean, is they going to really help? I mean, I've heard people saying things like, oh my God, the cost of eggs and the cost of this. And I'm saying to myself, well, the cost of eggs and the high cost of living in terms of groceries has been high for the past 4 years. What are you even talking about? Trump hasn't even been in office. How long he's been in office? 2 hours? You know what I mean? Come on now. Give the man's economic policies a chance to get off the ground, folks. Stop letting these people put that fear in you. But anyway, let's go on. I digress. U.S. job openings rose unexpectedly in January, underscoring a resilient labor market that continues to defy pessimistic forecasts about the impact of President Donald Trump's economic policies. Job openings climbed to 7.74 million in January, up from a revised 7.51 million in December. And that is a decent, significant jump, according to data released Tuesday by the Labor Department's Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey. The increase surpassed economists' expectations of 7.6 million openings. Goes on to say the increase in openings was driven primarily by gains in the real estate, construction, retail, manufacturing, and financial sectors, suggesting continued strength in key areas of the economy. And these are jobs that pay a decent wages. These are not, some people say, well, yeah, man, there'd be more jobs. Yeah, okay, big deal, there's more jobs. They don't pay anything. Well, these jobs, these particular areas here, real estate, construction, well, retail doesn't pay a whole lot, but yeah, it don't need to be. People that have low skills, that's where you need to be. I mean, you're not a doctor or lawyer, go to place and then work yourself up. But anyway, manufacturing and financial sectors, some of these areas do pay decent money, and as you rise up in experience, you get more money. But the point is that it's not what the mainstream liberal media reporters and journalists and liberal economists have been projecting it to be. Okay, all this fear is what they're good at, fear mongering. Let's go on. Despite widespread media speculation about negative economic impacts from the Trump administration's tariff policies and federal workplace reductions, the labor market data indicates ongoing stability. Now listen to this. Job openings in manufacturing, a politically and economically sensitive sector of the economy, climbed by 30,000, the first significant increase since and the highest since September. Hires also climbed by 30,000, the first increase since September. The number of factory workers quitting their jobs rose, as did the rate of quits, signs that workers in the sector are more confident. You say, more confident about what? Well, I'm jumping ahead here. More confident they're going to be able to find better jobs. A lot of times people hang on to jobs that they have because they fear by quitting them, they're not going to find anything better. So quitting the jobs indicates or suggests, according to this data, that they have a better opportunity to finding better paying jobs. It goes on, the layoffs rate remains steady at an historically low 1.0%, reflecting employers' continued reluctance to shed workers. Meanwhile, the quits rate, a key indicator of worker confidence, rose by 2.1%, the highest level since July 2024. An elevated quits rate typically signals that workers feel confident in their ability to find new jobs, as I said. Hiring remained stable in January, with the hiring rate unchanged at 3.4%, while overall hiring numbers have moderated since the peak recovery years immediately following the pandemic. January's figures suggest employers are maintaining steady employment levels rather than aggressively downsizing. You don't need to do that now. Read some of this. Federal job openings experienced only a marginal decrease, falling at just 3,000 openings, providing little evidence to substantiate claims of significant harm from federal workers' workplace. Providing little evidence to substantiate claims of significant harm from federal workforce cuts at this stage. Total separations, which include quits and layoffs, in the federal government were unchanged in January and down slightly from a year ago. Hires actually increased by 3,000. There you go. The stability reflected in January's data may influence the Federal Reserve's upcoming decisions on interest rates. This is important as well. Economists remain divided on how quickly the central bank will return to cutting interest rates and how many cuts we are likely to see this year. Well, the central bank's anyway a bunch of crap anyway, but anyway, that's another story. With many viewing labor market conditions as a key to predicting Fed policy. Despite the positive labor data, broader market sentiment remains cautious, and rightly so. Stock indices fell Tuesday in ongoing uncertainty about trade relations and future economic policies, including the budget resolution being debated on Capitol Hill and efforts to preserve and expand the tax cuts enacted in Trump's first term. End of article. Yeah, there's going to be still some concerns about that, because I don't think the trade, the tariffs have been fully functional at this point in time. But there's a lot of fear and concern about what these tariffs are going to do. I shared with my friend, and my friend, if you're watching this, thank you for watching this. And you heard from that article there. That's the news in written form. Okay. The subject, we talked about the subject of the tariffs and so forth, and how the mainstream liberal media and liberal economists on the mainstream liberal media is putting out this idea that, oh my God, it's going to be the end of the world. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs. A lot of this is going to happen. This is going to go up. This is going to go up. Woo, 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 woo. There is some concern of that, and I'm not saying that we could be 100% sure that Trump's economic policies are going to be the greatest policies of all time. But I can honestly say this, that they're going to be much better than Biden's. And let's be realistic. The last 4 years, everyone here, if you're listening to this video, you know, I know, the angels in heaven know, the demons in hell know, the poor, the rich, everyone that has populated this American society knows that for the last 4 years, we have dealt with insufferable inflation in terms of food prices, gas prices, high housing costs, and so forth. This is mostly a direct result of Biden's economic policies. People have to understand, economic policies, when they are initiated, have results. Whether those results be good or whether they be bad. As one researcher said, ideas have consequences. And when you have bad economic ideas, you're going to have bad economic results. When you have good economic ideas, you're going to have good economic results. Okay. The idea is the question is, when is it going to happen? We don't know fully how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen rather, but we know it's going to happen. And in terms of Trump's economic policies, I think they're far superior than Biden's economic policies. But I read that article to simply say, to calm down the fear and terror that so many people have about Trump's economic policies. Now, my friend, if you're watching this, and if anyone else is watching this that are Bible believers and believe in Bible prophecy, and eventually the economy is going to be taken over. Yes, that's going to happen. The book of Revelation does predict that's going to happen. There's going to be a one world economic system. But God is a God of mercy and grace. And as long as there are praying, real praying Christians in America, okay, God can hold that off until the proper time. And in terms of Trump, I'm not saying he's a Christian, born again, biblical Christian. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But we didn't vote for the pastor of the United States. We voted for the president of the United States. What are his policies? That's what should matter when it comes to economics, when it comes to illegal immigration, open and closed borders, when it comes to the Department of Education and all these type of things. What is his plan? And his plans, in my opinion, are much better plans than Biden's was. So before we start getting all scared, think it's going to be the end of the world, let's just calm down. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe all the hype you hear on the mainstream media. Not that the mainstream media doesn't say anything true, but I've been watching it for quite some time now, and knowing the way they are, particularly when it comes to the left and their opinions and views of those on the right, I'm skeptical of it. I'm very, very, very skeptical because my experience and my observations and my studies have mostly always showed that it's always negative. And it's always given one side or lopsided view of what's going on. So I just wanted to bring that out. Yeah. You know, look. People, more jobs. I mean, 30,000 jobs, new jobs. I thought it was supposed to be the end of the world. I thought that was it. Oh my God, churches, it's praying time, churches. Let me say this, start summing this up. Just about a few weeks ago, someone in my church was, and I respect it. I respect it all the way. I respect it 100%. But I know this person has a democratic mindset, and that's all they watch is the mainstream media. They mean well, but all they're watching is the mainstream media. And if you listen to the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, and all of those mainstream liberal media outlets, you're going to 9 times out of 10 get a negative spin on Trump, if not all the time, in terms of his economic policies and so forth, because they hate him. They hated him in his first term. They hate him now. Nothing Trump does is going to ever satisfy them. When are people going to wake up and see that? Okay, that should tell you something right there. If he is not doing, if there's nothing he's doing is right at all, then don't you think that something's wrong with that? Don't you think something would be wrong with that picture? When you're listening to the mainstream liberal media reporters and journalists and analysts and so forth, and everything they say about Trump is negative, don't you think that should cause people to be like, wait a minute, hold it. You mean to tell me there's nothing this man can do that is right? And Biden, everything he did was right. Every single thing he did was right. Even when I'm looking at it and feeling it and knowing that it's wrong, but I've been conditioned to believe that it's right. Come on, man. Come on now. Let's be realistic. Let's look at this logically. God gave humans a brain. I think we should use it. I don't think we should blindly go around talking about, I think we should use the brains that God above has given us. Clearly, he's given us a brain. Clearly, he's given us a mind to use. Why would God give us a brain? Why would he give us a mind if he doesn't want us to use it? I'm just saying, people, make that make sense to me, please. And with that being said, okay, you said all these negative stuff in the church. It's like, well, they're saying that Trump going to put these tariffs out here, and the prices of this is going to go up, and this went up, and this person left, and this. And a lot of this economic instability is coming from the fear of these tariffs being put in place, not what is actually happening. It's the fear that the mainstream media is pushing on people about what these tariffs may possibly do that's causing people to be shaken up and causing business owners and stocks and everything to crash and all this kind of, because they're scared. They're scared of what might happen. But what if it don't happen, boo-boo? You scared and all messed up. Wait a minute, hold it, man. Come on now. We would have to look back in the past at when tariffs were put in place on these countries' imports, we'd have to look back in the past and see if it messed up our economy at any point. I mean, can we do that and see what's really going on? Let's check it out. Yeah, let's look at this. Let's look at this. Let's read this real quick. Here are the positive effects of tariffs, at least according to this particular article. It protects domestic industries. Tariffs can shield domestic industries from foreign competition. Number 2, counter unfair trade practices. Tariffs can help address trade imbalances. And number 3, raise revenue. Tariffs can increase tax revenue for the government, which is good because if it increases tax revenue for the government, then the likely effects of that would reduce taxes on American consumers in terms of their paycheck. Okay. The negative effects, it says raise prices. Tariffs can increase the cost of imported goods, which can lead to higher consumer prices. And I'm going to share something else with you guys too that some of you guys might not know. And I believe I shared this with my friend. Number 2, tariffs can reduce mutually beneficial trade. Number 3, tariffs can lead to retaliation from other countries. Of course, yeah, of course, because they're. I'm gonna tell you about that retaliation. It can harm innovation. Tariffs can prevent companies from addressing problems that lead to market inequities. Sounds Marxist to me. And fifthly, tariffs can harm consumers, including businesses that buy imported goods as inputs, of course, because you're not being charged anything, okay? Or rather, not you not being charged anything, but the countries that are exporting those goods to our country are not being charged anything. They're not being charged taxes for what they're doing. But let me explain something here. Let me bring something up real quick. And I shared this with my friend. What people might not know, and I'm not an economist, I'm not really very, very good with this, but I understand most of it, okay? In 1970, maybe 1971, Henry Kissinger, who was a socialist, globalist, and advisor to former President, who was it? I shall not tell a lie. What was his name? That's who it is, Richard Nixon. Yeah. Henry Kissinger was hired by Richard Nixon as his advisor. And under Henry Kissinger, he proposed this, what is known as the North American Free Trade Agreement. And the North American Free Trade Agreement allowed countries such as China and India and other countries to be put on what was called most favored status. The reason for that was because these countries were struggling economically. China was just coming out of communism. Communism had screwed up the economy, costing millions and millions of people's lives. India was having the same situations, and it was just really bad. So they were put on the most favored status in the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, okay, 1971, under President Richard Nixon, who, by the way, was a Republican. Okay, he wasn't no Democrat. So that's both Democrats and Republicans is in on these trade agreements. But what this ended up doing was that it allowed these countries to sell goods to us free of charge. In other words, you couldn't charge them any tariffs. You couldn't tax their imported goods. Meanwhile, if we was trying to export goods to these countries and the other countries, they could charge us and have been. Now, here's the effects of that. When NAFTA was signed into agreement, this free trade agreement was signed into agreement where China and other countries like China and India could sell us their goods free of charge. This hurt a lot of American manufacturing firms where they had millions of Americans all over the country working and making good money. And you already know what this is going to lead to. So because the manufacturing plants here in America couldn't compete, they shipped their jobs, those jobs in factories over to China and India and Mexico and other countries, and pay little or no payment. It's just pennies. It's pennies. They pay them pennies, basically, so to speak. You know where this is going. I don't have to go into the details of this. Needless to say, guess what ended up happening? Americans, millions of them, lost their jobs. Now, other jobs came in. Other jobs started growing, but guess what? They weren't nearly as good as the manufacturing jobs. So all this Putin and snotting and farting about what jobs is still open up the market. There was still plenty of jobs, and job openings increased. Yeah, but were they as good as those manufacturing jobs? No. No. And that's the whole plan. The whole plan was to destroy the economy of America. Now, this is a source that I read from some time ago, and I was trying to find that source. And I know it's one of my books, but I can't remember where I read it. But it's a book based on economics, was stating that at one point before 1913, before the Federal Reserve was brought here, I believe, that America mostly got a lot of their revenue from tariffs, from what I understand. This is what it was saying, from tariffs. Okay. And they were getting a lot of their tax revenue from tariffs and other areas, but they were not taxing people's income. The taxing of our income didn't come till after the Great Depression. Yeah. The taxing of our income didn't come till after the Great Depression. And the theory is, the reasoning for that was because Franklin D. Roosevelt needed to find extra money to pay for the New Deal, which was basically a giant stimulus package to help millions of Americans who had lost their jobs and their homes and everything due to the Great Depression. Because I guess the tariffs just wasn't enough. And the other stuff that they was taxing wasn't enough, so they started taxing our income. But before then, there was no taxing of the income. This is one of the things that Trump is trying to do. I was reading one portion of an article that stated that he's trying to push a law or promote a law or an idea that would where we would no longer be taxed for overtime. Now, wouldn't that be great? See, leave it to the mainstream media. They'll never tell you that. Now, whether or not that's going to pass or not, I have no idea. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. There's too many nasty, funky, nasty, no good, low down, demonic politicians in office, and they don't want that to happen. They're trying to destroy the country. But that's a good idea, and I pray and hope that that happens. Okay? But I wanted to bring that out about the terrorists because there's a little bit more to it than what people think. Yes, it may have some negative effects, but it also has some good effects. And when NAFTA was put in place in 1971, the North American Free Trade Agreement, that screwed up everything. Okay? Our deficit is hundreds of billions of dollars because China ain't paying anything. But when we try to import our goods and export our goods to other countries, guess what? We got to pay tariffs. Meanwhile, that's hurting our economy. Man, don't make me say something. I'm trying to be nice here. Don't make me say something. Let's deal with the facts here, not all this foolishness from the mainstream liberal communist media. Okay, let me calm down. That's what I had to say about that. Yes, yes, the jobs, job openings are rising. It ain't as bad as the mainstream liberal media tell you. What are your thoughts on this? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all. See you again.